Video is for educational and harm reduction purposes only. I am not encouraging or promoting the use of any illegal substances. All experiences discussed are personal stories told to share insight, reduce harm, and contribute to public understanding of psychedelics and mental health. Do not attempt to recreate anything described in this video. If you choose to use substances, always prioritize safety, legality, and informed decision making. Yo, what is up? So, today, I want to tell a story about the first time I ever did LSD. And this was back in, it was 2011 going into 2012. This is probably the only trip story that I have where I can actually remember the exact date, because this takes place on New Year's Eve going into New Year's of 2011 going into 2012. And yeah, it was my first trip ever. And just to kind of set the backstory of everything that was going on around that time. So at the time, I was 17 years old. I was a junior in high school. And yeah, at the time, I had experimented with some things. Like, I smoked a lot of weed at the time. I smoked a lot of the synthetic weed at the time. It was something that was also big at the time, which during this story, I actually smoked some of that synthetic weed because at the time I was trying to get a job. Never found one, but I was trying to get a job, so I was smoking synthetic weed at the time. Yeah, and the day before this took place, I tried to do MDMA, which would have been my first time doing MDMA, but I got ripped off. It didn't work. So this was my first actual encounter going into the psychedelic space completely. So just to kind of dive in and get started. So this was, like I said, it was New Year's. So the day before I wanted to try MDMA. I took it and nothing really happened. Got ripped off. And so on the following day, I had a couple of buddies that were getting into LSD and stuff at the time. And so since the MDMA didn't work the day before, I was just like, sure, I'll try acid. These dudes have been doing acid. And it sounded kind of fun. They had told me about it. They said it was really fun. And it sounded interesting. I was more interested in MDMA at the time. So I wasn't as interested in LSD at the time. But that would surely change, because this whole experience completely changed where my life went from that moment forward. And so yeah, so the day, it was pretty cold. It was December, and I was hanging out with my buddies at the time, and I had a little bit of money because Christmas was before. At the time, I used to get like Christmas money from like family and stuff. So I had some money to spare. So I said to my buddies, there was two main buddies that I was hanging out with at the time. I'll just call them by their initials instead of doxing them and saying their names. J and C. And so I was like, hey, if y'all try to get me some acid, I'll buy y'all some hits, and I'll get me some too, and we'll all do that. So that's what we went with. We all got two apiece. And so they called their dude up. He comes out, and we get the stuff. And while the dude is out getting the stuff, we're at my buddy's apartment. We're at their they both lived together at the time, so we're at their apartment, which is just above like one of the dude's parents' house. They like refurnished the basement into like this apartment area that they lived in. And so while we're there getting the stuff, some of my other buddies come over. My other buddy T and his parents come over. His parents are like major druggies. They're like meth heads and stuff, but they, also experimented in other things as well. And so they were getting some as well, and we all kind of just like hang out for a while there. Didn't really dive into anything too crazy yet. We just kind of like smoked weed in a circle and talking and stuff. And I was talking to, everyone about my first time. Tonight was going to be my first time ever doing acid. And yeah, we kind of just chilled like that for a while. My buddy, the buddy that came over with his parents, they ended up leaving and going and doing their own thing for the night. So once they left is kind of when we kind of got the night started. So this was, since it was my first time, I only started with one. I just took the one. And so yeah, we all took, I think my other two buddies, they both took two. They went ahead and took their two. So I took the one, and then we went to the gas station. I forget what we got. It was probably just like drinks and stuff. But we rode up to the gas station after we took the hits. And while we're at the gas station, we run into one of my other buddies that was also kind of in this space doing this kind of thing at the time. Yeah, my other buddies tell him that tonight's my first time ever trying it, and they told him that we had already taken it, and I wasn't feeling anything yet at the time. But the buddy we ran into, he came up to me and was like, talking to me about it and asking me if I was feeling anything yet, and I wasn't feeling anything yet. So I was just like, yeah, not really. We just kind of took it not too long ago. So I stayed in the car while my other buddies went inside and got stuff in the gas station, and I just talked to our other buddy out in the parking lot. And that didn't take too long. Once they came back out, we just kind of rode out. We went back to the apartment, and once we got back to the apartment, we kind of just like sat down. I think they threw some stuff on the TV, just threw some random stuff on the TV. And we sat there for a while, and they were just kind of like goofing off and talking and stuff. And right around the hour mark is when they started feeling their hits, and they were asking me like, yo, do you feel yours yet? Like that kind of thing. And I was like, no, not really. And yeah, I wasn't really feeling anything yet at the time, so I was like, yeah, I'll go ahead and take my second hit. So I took the second one, and right after taking the second one, I packed a bowl of the synthetic weed that I had at the time. I think it just took like 1 or 2 hits of that, and pretty much right after that is like I immediately started feeling the LSD. So the first thing I noticed was, after hitting this, I was looking at my buddies. We were all sitting there talking, and like they were like moving their heads and like, just general like talking movements and stuff. And I started seeing like trails, like their face were trailing, like there'd be like 3 different faces behind their face, and like their arms would have like 3 or 4 different arms behind like their arm movements and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, like I'm definitely feeling it now. I definitely that is interesting. So then after that, so with synthetic weed, it tends to be, at least the spice stuff that was around back in that day, it tended to be kind of like anxiety driven. Like I would get a lot of anxiety with it. So like I initially kind of, got like a lot of anxiety with the synthetic weed, along with like the acid kicking in now. So I got like super anxious, got kind of quiet for a bit. Yeah, my buddies just started like goofing off and like laughing and talking about all kinds of crazy stuff at that point, and I was just kind of like sat back in my chair like, oh shit, And yeah, that lasted for a while. I would say probably the next hour or so, I was just kind of sitting there like, oh shit. And yeah, during that hour, it was pretty much just the same thing, just like these trails kind of all over the place, and like started getting like some different like depth perceptions of some things. And I remember my one of my buddies, Jay, he like got on a phone call with like some girl, I think at the time, some girl he was talking to. And I remember just like sitting there listening to that, and like while I'm sitting there, I'm just like, man, I really need to piss, but like I do not want to get up and go to the bathroom right now. I was like scared to go to the bathroom by myself for whatever reason. So like I just kind of sat there, and yeah, eventually my buddy got off the phone, and we're all just kind of like chilling there. And I remember him at the time, another little bit of a backstory here. At the time, I was like a super duper metalhead. Like, I had like the big gauges and like, super like into deathcore, like bands like Oceano and like Whitechapel and stuff like that. And my buddy Jay, he like looked at me. He was like, "You want to listen to some metal right now?" And I was like, "Oh man," like because like before they had joked to me, they were like, "Oh man, you're gonna trip and you are not gonna be in the mood for metal," and they were completely right. Like when he said that to me, I was just like, "Oh man, that is so not the move." But he of course like threw some metal on. I think he threw Oceano on, and we like sat there and listened to a song, and I was just like, "Oh man, yeah, this is not the mood." But eventually that turned off, and this was also still while I'm like pretty anxious. But eventually they turn on some other stuff. These dudes like introduced me to a lot of like really cool like groovy psychedelic bands and stuff. They threw a lot of that kind of stuff on after this, and that's kind of when the anxiety went down. Like the anxiety, it finally like lifted off of me, and I was just like, it was just kind of like a moment of And once this happened, this is when I started noticing like the way lights were kind of like reacting to everything. So like the lights in the room kind of like started like shifting around with the music kind of, and I forget what the song was that was on at the time, but it gave off this really like put off a mood into the room of like almost like a 60s 70s hippie kind of vibe going on. And I remember like looking around at the lights all around the room because they had like, you know, colorful LED lights and stuff going on. And I remember even like one of the dude's like phone lights were like shining onto the wall and like shooting up across the wall, and like everything was just kind of like had this weird like 70s kind of groove to it. And yeah, I remember sitting there and thinking like, holy shit, this is what the hippies were doing. Like, I completely understand the hippies and like what was going on in the 60s and 70s now. Like, it was just like a moment, like it all clicked. I was like, oh, this is what all that was. And yeah, it was really interesting. And this is when I really started feeling comfortable. We still weren't really talking or much of anything like that yet, but yeah, this is when I definitely started being like, oh, hell yeah, this is dope. I think we just sat there for a while, and I remember while we were like playing music and stuff, at one point, my buddy like turned some music videos or something onto the TV, but he turned like the audio completely down, and we were like sitting there like watching this music video on the TV. I don't know why, but like Terry Crews was like on the screen, and like the way the music was like lining up with what was going on the screen was just like hilarious. We were all just like sitting on these on the couches, just like dying laughing at the way the music is lining up with what is going on the screen. That's something that happens a lot with acid, is like it'll make things line up, especially music. Like music will line up in like these weird intricate ways with just like things that are going on around you. Yeah, that was really cool. So yeah, we kind of like just sat there and did that for a while, just like listening to music and like, you know, like watching the room put on a show with the music, which is like still like one of my favorite things about doing acid, is just listening to music and watch the world like just play a show for you. It's super cool. It's like my favorite thing about it. Yeah, we did that for a while, and then eventually we got up and went outside, and it was like nighttime by this point. I remember we go into his backyard and we're just like, you know, just looking around, and I remember like looking up at the moon, and the moon had like split off. There was like 3 moons instead of 1, and they were kind of like wiggling, but like, yeah, it was super detailed. Like the other 2 moons that had split off too, they weren't like less detailed than the original like main moon. They split off and they were just as detailed. It was just like there were 3 of them there now. I remember like asking my buddy C, I was like, yo, do you see that? There are fucking 3 moons right now. And he was just like, yeah, man. Yeah. I don't know if he actually saw it or if he was just, you know, agreeing for the hell of it. But yeah, that was pretty cool. So then we just go back inside and we're chilling for a bit. And just kind of the same thing, just like played music pretty much the entire time. And I remember at one point, a song came on by a band called Of Montreal. They have a song called The Past is a Grotesque Animal, and this is like a longer song. Like it has like a slow build up, and it like, you know, kind of evens out, and you know, kind of stays in that chill vibe for a while. And if you don't know Of Montreal, they're like definitely a great band. I recommend like checking out while you're on like psychedelics and stuff. But like this song came on, and I remember like just sitting there, and this is like I started hitting my rambling point. Like I just started rambling about all the stuff in the world that like makes sense now, because like so much stuff was just like hitting me like, oh shit, this makes sense now, and like I remember sitting there and just being like, yo dude, like this moment, this feels like what life is supposed to feel like in the moment. Like it genuinely felt like everything I had lived before that isn't how life was supposed to feel, but everything I was feeling in that moment was actually how life was supposed to feel. It was kind of a bizarre feeling. I've never felt that before. That was the only time I ever felt that, but like it was like, yeah, it just felt like this is actually what life is supposed to feel like. It was just like a moment of complete peace. Like I was at peace. Like I was just like really chilled out, at peace, a lot of euphoria, and just like, yeah, everything just like made sense in this weird kind of way. Yeah, after that, I think we just kind of chilled out. This was like starting to get towards the end of the trip. we started getting hungry, so we were still kind of tripping. I know I definitely was, but we did some dumb stuff back in the day. I don't recommend for sure. But we all hopped in my buddy's car and we went to McDonald's. And like while we're on this trip, I remember like looking at out the windows, and everything kind of had like this weird glow. Like if I was looking through a window, everything had like a weird glow around it, especially like lights. Like other lights had like this weird like orb of rainbow around it. And eventually we get to McDonald's. I think we just like got some McChickens or something, just like some dollar menu stuff, because we're all, you know, young, dumb, and broke. Yeah, the same thing when we ate inside the McDonald's, and while we're sitting there in the McDonald's, same thing, I was looking out the windows, and everything just had like this weird like rainbow glow around it. But like it was only when I looked through windows. So like when I wasn't looking through windows, it didn't have it, but something about windows was giving everything this weird like aura around it. And then yeah, we just eat our food, we leave, we go back to the apartment, and I'm pretty sure I just went to bed after that. We all just went to bed, smoked weed, went to bed, or I was smoking synthetic weed at the time, but yeah. And that was kind of it. That was my first trip. It was like a lot of lost memory in there, because this was a long time ago, but like generally the whole time we pretty much just listened to music and like talked and just kind of bullshitted the whole time. Yeah, that was pretty much it. That was my first experience into it, and you know, after that I got completely sucked into the psychedelic world. I was you know, I've tried tons of things since then. I'll definitely make some more videos about some of those other experiences. I just wanted to make this one first, and just kind of like real quick go over what this channel is and what I plan to make it. So I actually made this channel 5 years ago, doing the same kind of thing, telling like trip reports and, you know, just psychedelic stuff. My mom ended up finding the channel, and so I like panicked and like deleted all my videos. I only had like 4 or 5 videos up at the time, so it's not a big deal. But I like panicked and deleted all the stuff. But yeah, the point I'm at in my life now, I don't really care. I don't really care. Like, she knows all about my past now. My family knows about my past now with all this kind of stuff. And yeah, I just kind of want to like talk about this stuff. I'm definitely still very much into the psychedelic culture and stuff. I don't personally do psychedelics anymore because I have, you know, health issues and, you know, not really in a good place to be doing that kind of thing. But I still very much love the psychedelic culture and, like, you know, talking about it, talking about my experiences, helping people who are in that world, you know, harm reduction kind of things. So that's kind of what I want to do with this channel. And yeah, definitely let me know your first experiences down in the comments. Let me know what kind of videos would you be interested in seeing in this kind of a space. I know the psychedelic space, there's like other psychedelic channels out there, like Psych Substance and like Your Mate Tom, or Your Tom Mate, or yeah, Your Mate Tom, yeah. And but they seem to be a lot less active now than they were a few years ago. I used to watch those dudes a lot years ago, but I'm kind of curious to see what you guys would want to see in a newer channel going down this kind of a route. Yeah, just let me know all that down in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.